So get this, right? On the weekend, we went along to these very interesting markets that we had never been to before. And it was a new concept. They were called the moneyless markets. And the reason why I was interested was because there was an opportunity for us to have a stall, you see, because my daughter's right into her baking, and I thought that it might be an opportunity for her to show some of her goods because she loves her baking, but there's only 3 of us here at home. And so she gets frustrated because we don't eat the 36 cupcakes that she bakes. So I thought, why not take her along to these markets? So I did warn her. I said, look, you're not going to be able to get money for them because they're these moneyless markets. I think we get to swap things, or you just get to go around to all the stalls and take things for free, and then they come to your stall and get to taste your cupcakes for free. Anyhow, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Let's go do that. And anyway, she baked herself a whole heap of cupcakes and really delighted in setting up her stall. And we were there. And yeah, sure enough, there were lots of people that were giving not so much goods. Like I thought it was going to be more like art and craft based, and people just sort of giving away the things that they make, or but it wasn't so much like that. It was more like people were I guess trying to get rid of, say, old clothes that they're not wearing anymore. They're not like, they don't look old. Well, some did, but it's not like they're not wearable. It's just they're just wanting to give them away, and then I guess swap with other people with clothes. Oh, there was like some crockery, there was some household items, things like that. So it was more like, I guess it was kind of like a garage sale, but for free. So that was interesting, and some people had like fruit and veg to give away and things like that. So while I was there, one of the stalls that was being held was it was advertised as a free, like a free cafe. So what this guy was doing was he had a little teapot, and he was offering, and some hot water, and he was offering, I can really see my whites in there. Whew, you can really see it in the light. Well, there you go. And he was offering free tea or coffee and conversation. And I kind of was intrigued, and I walked over and I lingered about for a bit, and he had like a brochure that he was giving away that he'd printed on like normal white paper at home, and it was called something like Living Without Money or something like that. So I picked one up and I thought, no, this is kind of interesting. Like, especially because at the moment I'm actually reviewing our personal budget and like reading through personal finance books like I do every now and then, and like refreshing my memory of where we should be heading and what we should be doing or what we should be focusing on. So I'm kind of in the middle of all that at the moment. And so I picked up this brochure. It's called Living Without Money, and I'm flipping through it, and I thought, well, this is interesting. How could anyone really live without money? Like, that is the way the world runs, right? Like, how do you live in a house without having an income, or how do you do anything? And I thought, well, maybe these markets are a bit of an example of that. Like, maybe you can just trade or swap all the time, but I still don't see how you could pay rent without money. Anyhow, there happened to be a section on housing. I thought, oh, well, this will be interesting because this is kind of like intriguing me from that perspective. And it sort of had it was like an article. There was a little article on there, a write-up on how having a building for shelter can be a useful thing. And I thought, okay, you have a completely different viewpoint to most people from the get-go. Well, of course, I should have known that that would be the case, but I thought most people don't think of their house as just a building that you would just have for shelter. Most people would think, well, having shelter, having somewhere to stay dry and to stay warm and to call home is a need, like a basic need. You need food, water, and shelter. So straight off the bat, I could see, okay, these people, or like those people, or the people, whatever you want to, however that sentence should be, the people who live by this philosophy of attempting to live without money, they have a completely different viewpoint. And then it went on to say how you can find a building that's been abandoned and you can squat, because in Australia the squatting law still exists. In Australia, essentially, like at the very end of the day, if somebody wants to just walk into your house and claim it as theirs and squat in your house, pretty sure there's nothing you can do about that. Not that that happens, thankfully. I think most people are respectful. And you don't hear of squatters very, like, do you? Does anyone know squatters? I don't. But the squatters' law still exists. So this little brochure referred to squatting, and that you can have it as your own and then just have it as your shelter and spend the time making it look the way you want it to look. And then I thought, but don't you need materials, and therefore don't you need money to go and buy those materials? And then I thought, oh, maybe they're swapping, but you've got to find someone who's giving away building materials, don't you? Or like, what are they doing to then make this abandoned house, to turn it into a home? And I was baffled and blown away, to be honest. I thought, I don't think, first of all, that there are many abandoned houses to begin with, and like, where are they? And secondly, aren't you putting your health at risk when you do that? Like, there could be nails sticking out, there could be rubbish, there could be loads of bacteria. Like, sure, maybe they're promoting, well, get in and clean it and like make it your home. Great, but you're straight away looking at something there's not very much of out there in the first place. So it intrigued me that they're promoting this whole lifestyle, this whole philosophy, when it's clearly not something that everybody can do. Straight from the get-go, it's not something that everybody can do. I suppose you get people on the other end of the bell curve where they're, buying and selling multi-million-dollar properties, and they're also promoting, and not everyone can achieve that. So there's that too. But yeah, I was actually really intrigued at that point when I saw, however, that they were promoting squatting and in an abandoned building. I sort of secretly went, oh, all right, okay, that's really not for me. So I closed the brochure, put it down, and walked away. It would have been made pretty clear to the gentleman who was selling tea and coffee. I mean, not selling, giving away tea and coffee and free conversation, that wasn't for me. But I have to say, the thought, the idea, the concept just continued to be quite intriguing to me, because I was thinking, just what if there are opportunities to live without money? Maybe not entirely, because hands down, I would not live without money, because I really like my home, and yeah, it has a whopping mortgage on it, but I'm I'm content to pay the whopping mortgage so that I can have a home, not just a roof over my head. It's my home. It's where I hang out. It's where I chill out. It's where I live and breathe and enjoy. I enjoy my pets. I enjoy my family. Like, there's lots of memories here, and I'm happy that there's really not much that I have to get in and clean and fix and all of that. So that's what I desire, and that's what life has given me. So I'm quite happy with that. But it suddenly got me thinking, what if there are areas in life where one could essentially live without money, or come up with different rearrangements that didn't require money that one may not be aware of? What if? So I ended up Googling like living without money, and came across articles of people that have been on the news for this kind of lifestyle, and discovered that it goes beyond the concept of money. It's not even about money. Well, clearly it's not about money. But it's not even about the exchange of goods per se. It's not even about even saving money, or it ends. Well, I came across two articles of two different people who have launched this lifestyle the last however many years, and it really comes down to almost like really living by a philosophy that they hold dear. There was one lady who's like, I think in her 60s, and has been living this way for maybe about 10 years. What she did was quit her job. She's in Australia. Both of these people are in Australia. This lady's name, if you're interested in Googling her, was Jo Nemeth. So Nemeth, Jo Nemeth. So she quit her job. Clearly she was living in a mainstream lifestyle there for a while. I think she was a social worker or something like this, and then decided to, from henceforth, live without money. So she either flats with friends in exchange for housekeeping, for example, or she might go and she offers services instead of money. And then the other guy, I regret not remembering his name. He did it for a while and then has returned to normal mainstream living. He did it for about 3 years. And yeah, it got to a point where he just couldn't continue that lifestyle. So, but he says he learned a lot from his 3 years of living without money. And he has a very, very, very strong viewpoint, like a lot of people do these days, on the environment and saving the environment. And he believes that when we support companies that sell items, we're thereby also supporting the practices that they indulge in that may use up a lot of like excess resources and therefore affect the environment. I know there are a lot of people in the world that think that way. I personally don't hold to that. I don't believe that just because I go and buy a t-shirt that I am essentially making a political decision and saying yes to slave labor in Asia. Like, I know that will rub people the wrong way, but that's just not what I believe. I think that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders, guys, like totally unnecessarily. Because I think that if we thought about everything that way, we would drive ourselves insane. Maybe even just sitting on the toilet and flushing it afterwards is a real problem for the environment, supposedly. Yeah, it probably is. I can see that right now. But I think that's a lot of pressure. Anyway, moving on. So that's why he did it. And so he's like my conclusion on these two people. So Jo Nemeth didn't have made a major political reason for it other than the fact that she simply chose to make it a a philosophy to live by, I guess. Um, so basically, my conclusion is that people who want to live this way are driven by something way bigger than what a dollar coin could ever mean. So yeah, I found it all very intriguing though, very interesting. And I'm still kind of thinking about it, like just it's on my mind. I'm like, that's really interesting because I really love the way other people choose to live and the reasons why, like what drives people to do what they do. Um, and so it's on my mind. It's not something that, like, I already know that's not something I would ever adhere to. It's just doesn't suit me or my personality or what my life desires are at all. But I find it to be really interesting and really intriguing. Um, so, yes, living without money is a thing. Um, that I had, it's a concept I'd never come across and thought that that was really interesting and thought it would be fun to talk about. Bye! Enjoy thinking about the possibility of living without money.